Hello guys, welcome to another video. This video is a continuation of property wrappers, so if you want to know the basics about it, please watch the previous video. I will leave it in the description for you. Today we will talk more about other details of property wrappers. Things like combine multiple property wrappers in just one property. Is that possible? We will see that. Also, some limitations. What is the scope of a property wrapper? Where to use it and where it's not possible. Also, one important piece that is about projected values. And also, we will explore dynamic properties. Yeah, this video will be really interesting. Let's get started. My name is Pete, and this is SwiftUI Tips. Okay guys, in this video, we're gonna create a new property wrapper to modify our string. We're gonna pass a parameter to decide which format we want. For example, uppercase, lowercase, or capitalize. Also, we're gonna add the behavior to update our view in SwiftUI. Let's see how we can build this. Alright, let's start. Here we are in a SwiftUI view. It's really simple. As you can see, I am getting whatever I'm typing in the screen. However, yeah, as you saw earlier, we want a specific format and we want to validate our text and display that text depending on the format we want. So to do that, we're gonna create a new property wrapper. We already saw the basics of property wrapper creation, so I will move a little faster about prop value and we will cover more topics today. So let's start creating the property wrapper. As you know, we can create a property wrapper as a class, a num, or a struct. In our case, let's use again an struct. This struct will be called string format. You can create your own file for this property wrapper, but it's okay for this demo just to do it below. Okay, this is the basic struct, so remember, we need to decorate our struct string format with the attribute property wrapper. We will see again the issue about we need wrap value in our struct, so we will fix that in a moment. As you saw in the previous video, sometimes it's better to use a computed property for wrap value instead of a store value, because in that way you can filter or do whatever you want with the behavior of your property wrapper. So for this case, we will also use wrap value as a computed property and then create a new private variable to store whatever we want to wrap actually. Let's create then a private value here of type string and then create our initializer. Also, let's create our wrap value as a computed property and gets the value from the private variable. We will use again get to return whatever we have in our value. And for now, let's use also a set and store whatever we receive for the value. Let's go back to our initializer and initialize wrap value. Let's use just a default value here to avoid issues with the compiler. There you go. This is cool, but what about the format that we saw earlier? To identify what is the format we want for our string, we will have to create an enum for all those values. Let's create an enum format inside of this string format struct and create all the categories. One for lowercase, one for uppercase, other one for capitalize, and finally a default format, which means do nothing basically, if the user requires that. Since that default is a keyword from Swift, we need to use some quotes to mark this word as a regular variable for us and avoid issues with Swift. Now let's create a private variable to store the format. And also declare a new parameter in the initializer. Let's use again a default value here. Let's use .default. Let's move on then with the format itself. Let's create a new function to transform whatever string we receive into the new format we want to receive. in that way, in our wrap value, instead of having just right away this new value, we're going to filter whatever we receive and transform into the correct format. Let's create that function here, and let's call it formatted string and receive a string and return a new string. Okay, here is really simple. We just need to make a switch and, depending on the format, select whatever action we want. For the case of capitalize, it's really simple. It's just returning whatever we receive into capitalize. There you go. For the case of lowercase, again, return string lowercase. For uppercase, we need return string.uppercase. And for default, it's just returning the same string. Now, it's just as simple as replace this new value and call formatted string and pass new value as it is. Okay, cool. Looks like we just finished. So, okay, let's apply this string format property wrapper into our SwiftUI View. However, yeah, you may notice that we are using state already here. Okay, let's see if we can apply two property wrappers at the same time. Let's try to do it right away here. And let's use a format of uppercase. Yeah, we have a couple of issues here. One of them is about this binary object from state. Let's remove this for a moment. We have a couple of issues around here. Okay, let's see if we can do it in the other side. Okay, looks like we can. Let's add some random text just to see the uppercase letter. Yeah, it's working, but let's see if we can bring back our text field. No. Okay, what is happening here? Well, theoretically, you can combine multiple property wrappers for the same property. However, as you can see, it's not trivial because it's not applying all the wrappers to this single property. No, the operation is nesting one after other. What I mean is, for example, look this error. In this case, we have a binding property that comes from state. And in the beginning, we have just a binding of a string. But now we have a binding of a string format because state is wrapping all of this. So this is not a string anymore. It's a string format type. And if we do the opposite, we will see that now, instead of having a string right away, we have a state of a string because state is wrapping this text. So this combination is now being wrapped by this string format. So, and yeah, there is a way to compose multiple property wrappers to the same property. And I will leave you an article from Noah Gilmore that talks more in detail about it. However, in practice, it's really hard to do it, especially in this case, because we have different kind of wrappers. We have one that is just transforming our string to another format, and we have a state that is controlling the state of the view, which is totally different operations. Let me show you here one way to combine these two operations. And by the way, you need to analyze if it makes sense to you to keep multiple combinations of wrappers in the same property, because most of the time, maybe it's not the right approach. But anyway, there are multiple ways in which we will involve state management in SwiftUI and also transforming or wrapping a value in a property wrapper. So in cases like this, yeah, it's really convenient to find a way to do it. What about using state inside of a string format? Can we do that? Let's see that. Let's remove this here. Let's go back to the default text. We want to fix this in a moment. If we are about to update our view, it's because something changed. And what is the thing that we are changing here? Of course, is this value string. So, makes sense to me, and maybe for you, to mark this as state property. Let's see if we have any issue. No, actually, it's working. So this is great. Then looks like we can use a string format here. Yeah, and by the way, this is cool. Maybe you didn't know this, but this is just a regular struct. This is not a view, and we can use a state. So yeah, it's something cool. However, we're still having an issue with this binary object here. How we can solve this? One of the things that I want to talk today also is another value besides wrappedValue. Yeah, we have here wrappedValue, but it's mandatory for our property wrapper declaration. But maybe you didn't know this, but there is another secondary value that we can add here called projectedValue. In simple words, a projectedValue is a value depending of a wrappedValue that we could transform or do additional operations with them. You can declare, for example, in a database that one operation was done and declare the projected value as true or false depending if the operation was done correctly or not, or many other operations. In the case of a state, yeah, we wrap value in this case, but also state is giving us a projected value. And maybe you didn't know this, but the way to access the projected value is through this $sign. Yeah. Which means that, yeah, state is projecting a new value. In this case, it's transforming whatever we wrap before. For example, in this case, we were wrapping text, which is a string. And then we create a projected value as a binding string object, which is required for this text field. So this is awesome. This is the way to use a binding object, but in this case, it's also a projected value from the property wrapper state. Okay, let's see if we can then create our projected value as a binding object here. Again, this projected value is not required mandatory for the declaration of property wrapper, which means this property wrapper could be whatever we want. So for example, we could declare again as a boolean and return true all the time. Yeah, it's a complete valid projected value. But yeah, what we want here is then a binding object to work with text field. So in this case, let's use then a binding string. I would like to talk more in detail about binding objects later, but basically it's the two-way connection to allow changes for external sources. In this case, a text field will modify our text, and then we will then trigger updates to our view depending of each change in our text. So then we don't want this. What we want is then a binding object. So binding has two parameters, a get and a set. You can see a binding object more or less like the way we are using wrappedValue here, has a computer property depending of another value. In this case, actually, we want to transform wrappedValue into a binding object. So for that, we want to use get to return wrappedValue because it's the value that we actually care. And for the set, it's just as simple as get whatever we type in the screen. So in this case, we don't need any modification. However, here we have a problem because we are trying to modify wrappedValue inside of the struct, but struct is immutable by definition. How we can solve this? Well, could be many ways to do it, but one that I found that is really useful here and maybe is not well known is using a declaration in this set. Let's use here nonmutating. Boom, magic. What is happening here? Well, normally when you use mutating in a struct, you are telling Swift that this operation will mutate your state, or well, you will mutate your struct with this operation. So that means Swift will recreate the entire object every time you made a operation. However, with not mutating, you are doing the opposite. You are saying that you are not modifying the actual value. What I mean by actual is that we are not actually doing anything about wrap value, because this is a computed property, it's depending on another value. So we are okay because one, we are not modifying wrap value, we are modifying value. But at the same time, since that we are using state here, and remember that state take care of the mutation of value, we are good to go. As you can see, we don't got nothing. And also we got our binding object here. Awesome. Yeah, as you can see, we are using our binding object that is depending of our wrap value. Awesome, we are really close to finish this. So yeah, let's see if then, well, everything is working fine. Let's see if we can run this. Okay, cool, let's type. Oh, what? Okay, it's not working. Okay, can you identify why we don't have the update in the screen? Looks like everything is fine here. Let's go back here. Yeah, we are declaring a state here. We're supposed to, render a new update because, yeah, we are modifying value every time. However, we are forgetting one really important piece here. And to demonstrate that, let me just go to a state for a moment and see the declaration. As you can see, state is a property wrapper created by SwiftUI. However, it confirms dynamic property. What the hell is that? This is the declaration of dynamic property. It's a protocol. But basically, this is the magic of the updates in SwiftUI. When you have a property wrapper that is confirming this dynamic property, and then you have internally a state or something that mutates a state, we can trigger updates for our view. Yeah, this is the magic of rendering in SwiftUI. This is really important. And as you can see, we have here an internal update mutating function, but you don't have to do anything, at least for this example. It's just as simple as declaring your property wrapper with dynamic property, and Swift will infer that you want to render updates when something changed in your property wrapper. So let's go back for a moment. Yeah, so now that you know the magic of a state, let's declare this with dynamic property. And try again. Yeah, it's working finally. Yay. Let's use capitalize. Yeah, as you can see, we can get whatever we have here and immediately it's modifying the state, which means that this text is getting the latest updates from our text that is wrapped by this string format wrapper. Pretty cool. I don't know you, but I didn't know this dynamic property feature before making this video. So I really hope this information was useful for Vue development. Remember, there are multiple ways to reach whatever we need, but if you have issues working with the state wrappers and you want to transform along with the updates in your view, well, this is a really nice way to do it. That's it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed those videos about property wrappers. The sky is the limit. You can build a lot of things to your properties with this wonderful tool. There is more to cover about Swift and SwiftUI, so don't forget to subscribe, leave your like, and remember, thanks to you, this video was made. That's it for me. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Swift and Tips, and thank you so much. Have a great day. Oh, you're still here. Probably this is the last time you will see this environment. I'm moving to another house, so yeah, let's see what happened. And if you have ideas to how to decorate my setup, please let me know in the comments too. Thank you.